All right.
Welcome back.
I might have to step away for a minute, but that's why we got Sloters here.
You're good. Looks like we are live.
Okay.
Hello everybody. I am MisterGiggles. I'm going to be running Super Metroid Reverse Boss Order. I'll give us a countdown, get us started, and then introduce my commentators, and then I'm probably going to mute my mic and focus because this is a pretty fun-engineer run. So we'll get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So my commentators with me, I've got Shiny Zenny, who currently holds 11 separate world records in the Super Metroid speedrunning community, many of which are meme categories, and for one of them, for this particular category, he actually holds 2 separate routes world records. The 2 fastest routes, he has both. And then we've also got Sloters27, aka Best Girl. Sloters won our most recent multi-category tournament, which shows his skill as a very diverse runner. He's able to stay proficient in multiple categories at once. He is one of our moderators for the community and one of our tournament organizers. And so these 2 are definitely 2 of the best, 2 of the most foremost in the community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to them.
Cool, thanks, Giggles. So yeah, I'm Shiny Zenny, and we've also got Sloters here.
Hello, everybody.
And so I guess we'll just go over some basic stuff first. You're probably noticing Giggles is aiming his arm cannon up and down repeatedly. That's called arm pumping, and actually every single time he does that, he moves a pixel forward. So that's one of the things that you'll see him doing throughout the entire run. Doesn't seem like it would make that much of a difference, but it actually does save a handful of seconds over the course of a run, and especially in reverse boss order, it actually saves even more time than that, just because of the way that some of the movement works in this particular category. So.
Yeah, anyways, as you saw, Giggles just went through the first sequence of the game, the series Escape. After damaging himself down enough by Ridley, he triggers the escape sequence. Had a little trouble in that last room with the steam. There's a bit of RNG to that section, but manages to get out still with a decent time. And so now we're coming up to the planet Zebus, and at least for a couple minutes, it's going to look pretty standard compared to any other Super Metroid speedrun you might have seen. But we'll shortly kind of diverge from that.
So as usual, heading down to collect just a couple of items to start off the run. You'll see that he did a tech called Moonfall through that room. And what that does is it actually it breaks a speed cap, which allows him to fall very, very quickly. It's called Moonfall because it's a jump that you do out of a moonwalk, actually. It was a glitch that was discovered a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it takes quite a bit of time for the speed to really rev up on that. There's only a number of places where doing a moonfall is going to save you like a handful of seconds. There's a lot of other areas where it's kind of like a frame saver. But in this run in particular, it's probably 10 seconds or more, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few good places to use it in this particular category. Especially because this is one of the categories that you are picking up Screw Attack, which is one of the less common items.
So now that we picked up our morph ball and the first missile pack, going up the elevator here is going to wake up the planets. All these rooms Giggles just went through are now going to be filled with space pirates, and will make traversing back up a little more difficult. But funny enough, some of these early rooms are actually kind of difficult with the platforming. This room in particular, the climb, can be pretty brutal to make mistakes in.
People often refer to these as the hardest easy rooms in the game. And the reason for that is that there's no real danger of dying, but optimizing these and going fast in them is actually really, really difficult. This is definitely one of the most difficult sections in the game. All right, we're going to be heading here into Bomb Chorizo. That's chorizo with a T.
So this fight, it's pretty straightforward. Giggles is going to do a certain number of regular shots here, and BT is going to shoot some eggs out. And what he wants to do is shoot those eggs to make some missile drops. Ideally, you want to grab some of them, shoot BT, trigger sort of an animation into his next phase, and then grab more missiles to finish him off. Unfortunately, didn't quite get that clean one round, but still pretty solid fight. And this is where it's sort of going to diverge a bit from what maybe you're used to if you watch Super Metroid speedruns. So we're not going to be able to pick up any suits for quite some... Actually, we're not going to pick them up at all, but they would not be available to us for quite some time due to the nature of this being reverse boss order. So we're going to have to be going through some heated rooms early on here to pick up some items to help us out. And going through these heated rooms is pretty difficult as there's not very many E-tanks available to us. This is one of sort of the safeties you can take in RBO, is getting an extra E-tank here at the area we call the Gauntlet. With no E-tanks, this is kind of a scary area to do early on, especially without power bombs too, being able to break through these blocks faster. So Giggles will have to be careful, and you can see he's already taken a lot of damage from that acid. But essentially picking up the E-tank that's at the end of this gauntlet is going to make our early runs through the heated Norfair rooms a lot more lenient.
Yeah, health is very important for the hell runs. I apologize. I need to step away for just one moment.
No problem. So this is the end of the first scary part. He is going to pick up this E-tank, which will refill his energy and give him an extra 100. He is going to keep going through this area, though, and there's some more acid to traverse through, but he'll, like I said, he'll have a bit more energy this. I think he'll also grab a missile pack at the end of this section. Getting an adequate amount of ammo for this category is also very important because we're going to be utilizing the crystal flash technique, which requires 10 of each ammo to use and can refill your health up to max. And we'll see a lot of that later on once we get closer to Ridley. But Giggles is doing a good job right now of maintaining its energy. And yep, he should be through now. Alright, so Giggles is going to be coming up to the Green Brinstar area now, and he's going to be doing a little sequence break. Oh, also, he does not want to forget this E-tank here, the Terminator tank. Very easy to forget that if you play randomizers and you go through that gauntlet area. That E-tank's always sitting right there. But anyways, Giggles is going to be coming up to Green Brinstar and doing a sequence break that is in pretty much every Super Metroid category. That is getting the early supers with the Mach Ball. So normally you have to fight a mini-boss called Spore Spawn to get your first super pack, which takes some time, but by utilizing this trick called the Mach Ball, you can sort of imitate Samus's dash speed in Morph Ball form, which lets you slide under these gates in this next room without having the speed booster. So he's going into the room, he's going to morph as soon as he hits the ground, and he'll slide right underneath those gates. And not only is he going to grab that super pack, but he's going to grab this reserve tank, which functions a lot like an energy tank, although it's slightly different. But essentially, it's going to be another tank for him to use during these early hell runs. So with that super missile pack, Giggles does not have to go to Spore Spawn entirely, so we will not be paying a visit to our friend Spospo today. And he's going to keep working his way towards Norfair, picking up probably another missile pack along the way and some other items before making the descent. One significant item he's also going to pick up here is the Charge Beam, which allows us to shoot charged versions of our beam, which are actually able of damaging all the bosses. Most bosses don't actually take damage from uncharged shots, so we'll see some bosses taken care of with charged shots, namely Mother Brain and Crocomire. Another thing I believe Giggles does is he's actually going to grab an early Power Bomb pack in Red Tower. So this is actually the first Power Bomb pack you're intended to get in the game, although normally they expect you to have High Jump and Ice Beam in order to make this Red Tower climb a little more manageable. But grabbing this early Power Bomb pack here is going to let him use it pretty much for the rest of the run. He's not really going to come back to this area at all, at least until much later, when the power bombs aren't as useful. And it'll sort of give him some shortcuts and little time save in these early parts of the run too. Another thing worth mentioning about the reserve tanks, so the way they work is they're kind of like excess energy tanks that you have to manually fill yourself. Giggles hasn't filled his at all, and ideally in an RBO run, if you're only going to have 2 E-tanks going into the first hell runs, you're going to want to fill that reserve up all the way or pretty close to max. Since Giggles has that gauntlet tank, it's not going to be a huge concern. He's going to be able to fill it up partly right before he goes into the hell runs by farming a couple enemies. But a lot of times you'll see runners farm either up in the Hellway, up in Red Tower, that spiky room Giggles was in earlier, by the power bombs, or in kind of a hidden Meridia room that he's coming up to. But Giggles also just picked up the Spacer Beam. We are going to pick up the more powerful Plasma Beam later that will replace it, but until we can get Plasma, Spacer's going to help out a bit by allowing us to one-shot a lot of these enemies in the early areas, and also it's going to really help out on the Golden Torizo fight and just make it a lot more simple than just having to use strictly ammo for that fight. So coming over here, Giggles is going to pick up his last energy tank before doing these early hell runs. And he's also going to pick up the high jump boots, which our fantastic item. It's going to obviously make us jump a lot higher. It's just a really nice quality of life item, and it's going to be required for a lot of the things we're going to try to do. So now that Giggles has full health from that energy tank, any enemies he kills up ahead that drop health, that health is going to go right into his reserve tank, and it's going to give him a bit of a boost going through these next rooms, which is good. So hopefully he gets some big health drops, the big purple drops that'll do 20 each. I couldn't really see how many he got, but you know, again, with that extra energy tank, he should still be in good shape no matter how much he got. And he's also going to take a save here. These early hell runs are pretty tough sections. Particularly the one going to the wave beam is probably one of the more difficult ones across the run as a whole. So taking a save there early on is a really good decision, especially like in a race or marathon setting.
Alright, my apologies.
No worries. So Giggles took a bit extra damage, more than he wanted to during that hell run, but he does make it through, thankfully, with that extra tank. Again, I don't really know how much he has in his reserve.
Yeah, he'll probably want to farm up just a little bit here to be safe.
Yeah, so he only got 40, so I mean, this is enough energy to get through, but he's probably going to want to take a save. Oh, not going to save, just keep going. He can probably get a few more health drops off of these enemies, if he's lucky.
So the enemy at the top of that hill up there is called the Cack Attack. People refer to that specific one as King Cack, because he's the king of the hill, and he actually tends to troll runners a lot. Doesn't like them to get up there.
Yeah, normally you're supposed to kind of loop around to get to the top of this room, but us as speedrunners, we like to sequence break and wall jump up there, and King Cack just, he's not having it. He doesn't want us to do it. So 89 energy, Giggles is in really good shape to go through the next room. There's a farm station up in this next room we call the Bat Cave. But it takes a little time to get up there, so having like 60 plus energy is a good idea. Yeah, he'll be good with this. Ooh, it was a little close there, but
little tight there. But he should be good now. It's really important in these hell runs that you keep your movement as clean as possible, because just taking even one wrong hit or missing one jump can be the difference between making it through and taking a death. So I'm gonna be picking up Speed Booster here. This is one of my favorite items in the game, personally.
yeah, Speed Booster is going to be pretty huge. In a bit, we're going to be going back through some areas we've been to before, but now having the Speed Booster, it's actually going to allow us to pick up some extra power-ups, namely an extra E-Tank and Super Missile Pack. So that'll help out a lot going into Lower Norfair later on.
Alright, heading down to pick up Wave Beam now. Grabbing this beam is actually the main reason that he took the time to farm his health back up after collecting speed. So he technically will be able to make it to the next area that he's going to be going after Wave without having full health, but you do need the full health in order to come collect this beam and then get out. So Wave Beam is actually very, very important for pretty much every single Super Metroid category except for the low percents. It gives you a huge damage increase and also lets you shoot through walls.
Yeah, and also not to mention the X Factor special beam attack gets utilized in a lot of different runs, including this one. So a lot of, I guess, kind of traditional routes at this point would go fight Crocmire, but recently some people, including Zenny, have sort of been doing this late Croc double Norfair route, where they're going to leave Croc alone for now and go do all this item collection and Brinstar cleanup before heading back there. But we are going to visit Croc at some point because the grapple beam is going to be a huge item in both Lower Norfair and Meridia.
Yeah, traditionally people would have to go fight Croc at this point in order to get power bombs. You need power bombs to do some of the item cleanup in Brinstar, but Giggles grabbing those early power bombs before means that he doesn't have to do the Croc fight right now. One of the cool things about RBO is how many different routes there are to complete the category. It's pretty rare to see any two people do exactly the same route in item loadout. Keeps things kind of fresh for, just because you've seen it at one marathon doesn't mean that it wouldn't be fun to watch at another marathon by another runner, because the run could be completely different, really.
Yeah, so again, Giggles has been through this Brinstar area, but now having the speed booster and having those power bombs, he'll actually have access to a couple of extra items, and he's sort of going to make a clockwise loop around the map here, and eventually he'll come back out to this area, but he'll be much more strapped with ammunition and E-tanks by the time he comes back. So this is one of the items that Speed Booster is required for, the Waterway E-tank. There are speed blocks over on the left side of this room that if you break through, you're rewarded with an E-tank. So a lot of top-tier RBO runners will start skipping this tank, as it's kind of a lengthy check, and also if you don't have Speed Booster when you're here, you can't get it. This is a very good marathon safety E-tank.
This energy tank takes about a minute to grab. The main time loss comes from the fact that we don't have gravity suit, and so moving through water is really slow without gravity suit. So
yeah, even with Speed Booster, you don't move very quick.
Alright, so Giggles is going to do a little trick here where he stands in a specific spot and then shoots a super missile. What this does is it breaks a block there that normally you wouldn't have access to, which allows you to go in the back way to get this super missile pack that normally you'd have to fight Spore Spawn to collect. So
yeah, so not only do we skip the Spore Spawn fight with that early Mock Ball, but we actually still take a super and won't go visit him. Sorry, Spore Spawn.
And then he'll be heading up, coming in this door. Normally that door is actually a power bomb door, but he opened it earlier with the power bomb that he used to break the wall blocks as well. This is a very convenient energy tank for this particular run. doesn't take very long to grab, and it's also right in your path to pick it up. So.
There's another one of those high falls that Moonfall actually saves like significant time on. This area is like a gold mine here. You got an E-tank, a super missile, and a power bomb pack.
So these little guys coming into this room are called Eticoons, and that's why people refer to this area as the Eticoon area, or these are the Eticoon power bombs. The developers put them in there to kind of give you a hint that wall jumping is possible. A lot of people in their first casual playthrough actually get stuck down here because there's a save station down there, and you actually can't get back up without doing some of those wall jumps or doing bomb jumps up that tunnel. Okay, so we're going to be heading back up this room called Terminator. Normally we would have come down this room, but since Giggles took the gauntlet route, this is actually the first time you're seeing this room. One of the cool things about this particular RBO route is just the fact that you get to go up that room. That's pretty uncommon. It's a fun little strat. And now he's going to be going back down this climb room. He's going to be collecting some super missiles here.
Yeah, this is the other speed-locked item, kind of in these early areas. There's some speed blocks at the top of this room that he has to spark through.
Yeah, normally you would
to get through here, actually.
Normally you'd freeze these guys and run over them, or do kind of a damage boost over them, but Giggles is opting to just kill them with power bombs instead, which is a bit of a safer strat. Just takes a little bit longer, but it's still faster than going for the fast strat and messing up and having to do it over. So
yeah, and without any suits, if he gets caught in that acid, it'll do a lot of damage and also kind of mess up his jump physics, so it's easy to take a lot of damage if you end up missing that strat.
Once again, going through the old Mother Brain area. Coming back down to where we collected Morph Ball before, there's an energy tank hidden in the ceiling over here that he's coming down to grab. So that will refill his energy, which will be... It's really convenient, actually. A lot of the ways that this is routed is done so with your energy in mind, so that you don't have to spend any time farming or going to a refill. It's one of the nice things about energy tanks. And then here on the left of where he grabbed Morph Ball, there's actually a wall that you can break open with power bombs and collect another power bomb pack. Looks like he's going for a speedball strat, and Oh, he almost got that kill there. That's a really cool strat. But he did get the speedball through the blocks, which is definitely cool on its own.
Yeah, so like I said, after we do this kind of loop through Brinstar and Crypteria, we are back in the Green Hill Zone. And now we are ready to, well, almost ready. We're going to pick up one more item, the Ice Beam, for some extra damage output before we head into Lower Norfair, but pretty soon this is where the run actually kind of picks up and it starts getting pretty exciting.
Yep, he's heading back down to Norfair. He's gonna pick up Ice Beam and then do his Croc visit and grab Grapple Beam down there as well as another energy tank. And then we'll be heading into Lower Norfair.
I'm so used to Croc early, I forgot about that.
Like I said, lots of different routes. Definitely a cool category in that respect.
Yeah, if Giggles wanted to be really safe, he actually could have broke the tube he just ran through and did a little bit of early Meridia to pick up some more E-tanks and some more super packs, but he's pretty comfortable going without that safety. That's a pretty lengthy one to get. But
to pop back in here for just a second, and then I'll pop back out. You guys have been talking about early Croc versus late Croc. Zenny, you're the one who found the late Croc route, if I remember correctly, or at least it was based off a task. Do you want to talk about the differences?
Yeah. So, like Giggles mentioned earlier when he was introducing us, I have the world record in this category. And part of the reason for that is that I've spent a lot of time routing and timing different ways to complete the category. And there's an RBO tournament going on right now that I wanted to participate in, but traditionally with the route that I do, it's not very conducive to a race setting. It's kind of hard to follow how much progress has been made on one run versus another, and so I wanted to run kind of a similar route to what most people run in RBO for that tournament. And when I was looking into the different quote-unquote double Norfair routes, I realized that if we grabbed the power bombs early and did a late Croc visit, we'll probably save a lot of time. So yeah, I routed it out and timed it out, and it's a pretty fun route. Giggles is going to be running through this area called Croc Speedway here. This is actually pretty dangerous in the sense that when you don't have heat protection and you use Speed Booster, you can actually lose your speed echoes, and if that happens, you just get stuck in that hallway and die. So actually, in RBO, when you're running through heated rooms like that, if you need to keep your speed echoes, you actually just need to release dash once you get them. And that will allow you to retain them. So here we have Giggles bullying Croc, pushing him back into the acid. Croc just wanted a friend, but we need his energy tank and we need grapple beam. So sorry, Croc, it's for the greater good.
So Croc's not going to go down without a fight, but since he's just a skeleton now, he can't really fight, so there's that.
Sorry, I need to step away again for just a minute.
No problem. And here's another pretty tall room. Lets us save some time with that moonfall. Giggle's also gonna farm up some power bombs while he's here. They're gonna be a very critical resource coming up in Lower Norfolk. And there is our grapple beam. Grapple beam, like I said, it actually helps in both of the upcoming areas, Lower Norfair and Meridia. In Lower Norfair, it's going to be an invaluable farming tool. As we're going to be approaching Ridley, we're going to need to farm a set of bugs many times, and using the grapple beam is actually the fastest way to do that. So even if we didn't need it from Meridia, it is a huge item in Lower Norfair. So at
Looks
this
like
point,
chat on the marathon page is commenting that the game's audio is cut out. Giggles.
oh yeah,
Sorry, that's a known glitch for the capture card I'm using. I will have to fix that when I get to an elevator. Thank you for letting me know.
so Giggles is gonna attempt a trick we call the lava dive. Normally, the game expects you to have the gravity suit and space jump at this point. So getting through this next room is going to be very trivial. But the lava dive room is completely filled with lava, and fortunately, it has different physics than water. And you can actually wall jump up of it. And with high jump, you actually don't have to do anything super crazy. You just need to have some well placed wall jumps, and you can actually climb up out of this lava pit and get into Lower Norfair.
It is pretty important that Giggles has as much health as he can entering the room, which is why you saw him go back and tag that refill again after he took a dip in the lava a little bit early.
Yeah, with lower amount of E tanks, you might have to do a bounce ball into this room in order to do it faster, or do what Giggles is doing now and sort of manipulate the enemies and when they're shooting these fireballs. So Giggles gets through it first try, very nicely done. He is going to take that save right before going down, and kind of a interesting quirk of how the reserves work. So he's going to go down this elevator. He's still going to be taking heat damage as he's on this elevator, even though it's not showing it. But his reserve is actually going to trigger once he's actually able to move Samus. So he'll actually get the full 100 in his reserve, and that's just enough health for him to quickly go down and do the first crystal flash of the run. So I kind of talked about it earlier, but crystal flashing, if you have 10 missiles, 10 supers, and 10 power bombs, if you lay a power bomb and hold a certain set of inputs, you'll actually recover all of your energy. You need a power bomb to initiate this trick, so really you need 11 power bombs, unless you can somehow have one spawn on top of you when you lay it. And you also need to be under 50 energy and have no reserves for this trick to work. So we're going to use it several more times, as the majority of the rooms in Lower Norfair are going to be heated, and it's one of the reasons we picked up so much ammo before coming down here.
Giggles, just so you're aware, that did not fix the game audio. So you may want to take a minute to just see if you can fix it in one of these non-heated rooms.
Yeah, I'll have to stop once after I get through GT. I'll stop at the E-tank or the energy refill room and see if I can figure it out. Usually just deactivating and reactivating the capture card resolves it.
And this fight in particular is going to be a place where Spacer really shines in this category.
Yeah, Spazer actually does save a lot of time on this fight. because it means that you don't have to spend the time to farm up supers to keep your damage output up, and it does a lot more damage than just wave beam would. So nicely done.
So with that super missile pack Giggles just picked up in GT's room, he's at a total of 25 now. It's going to be pretty important that he gets full super missiles before leaving here, or at least pretty close to full super missiles. There's kind of a opportunity to farm some along the way, but you're going to want to be, at max by the time you go to do the next crystal flash, so you can spend a minimal amount of time farming your supers back up before going into Ridley.
Still no audio, by the way.
Okay. Then I'm not sure what the issue is, because that's always fixed it. The only other thing I can do is leave a mic live and turn the volume obscenely loud, but that's gonna sound weird. What do you guys propose? Just roll with it?
You can either roll with it, or you could try relaunching OBS really quickly.
Okay.
But I don't know if that would screw up the capture on the marathon side.
Yeah, just so that we don't have to worry about screwing it up, let's just roll with it. It's not ideal, but trying to get us back on schedule, so I don't want us to fall too far behind. If only I knew how to do that.
So,
All right, so go ahead,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, so Giggles is going to be going through a series of rooms here. This is called the Pillars room, and then the next room is called the worst room in the game. These rooms really, they're not too bad in RBO since we have Screw Attack, which actually gives us a lot more safe and fast movement options. But of course, we're also on a bit of a timer here with the heat damage and our health constantly draining. So he has to make sure that he doesn't take any hits here and that he gets through as quickly as possible. We're heading to a room called the Fire Fleas room that actually does not have heat damage, and believe it or not, also has an energy tank, which again is very conveniently placed to fill our energy back up. So
yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, just the way this area is laid out, it's kind of suggested that the developers thought people might try something like this, which is pretty crazy. Another cool thing about this room is these fire flea enemies are basically guaranteed to drop power bombs, and at this point, we could definitely use some more power bombs for those upcoming crystal flashes. And we'll take one more safety save before we fight Ridley.
the Ridley fight is it's kind of the choking point of this run. It determines exactly how many safeties runners take when they're deciding how to do the category, and also it's definitely the point in the run that deters most people from trying to run the category, just because it's so demanding. Lower Norfair in general is so demanding with its movement, with all of the heat damage, but the Ridley fight especially is very, very difficult. Going to be doing a cool little trick here to kill these space pirates. Looks like he missed his first shine spark there. opted to just kill them with supers instead. That's going to put us in a little bit of a tight situation, but he might be able to pull through. He does have his reserve energy still, so let's see how this turns out. Oh, that's bad. Well, that is what the safety saves are for, definitely. There's absolutely no shame in taking a death in this category. All right, give this Pirates Room another try. That should work. Okay, so the way that strat works, when Samus finishes her Shine Spark animation and crashes into a wall or a ceiling, there are some Shine Spark echoes that fly out from her, and those echoes actually do an absurd amount of damage to enemies that take damage from them. Sloters, do you remember how much damage it is per frame?
I want to say it's like 4,000 or something like that.
So yeah, normally, as you saw before, to kill those pirates, you'd have to wait until they turn gold and then shoot them either with super missiles or charged shots. But we can use those Shine Spark echoes to make quick work of them. Canadian Owl is saying it's 4,096 damage per frame.
All right, Giggles is in very good shape now. His supers are maxed out, so what he's going to do here is get himself in range to where the crystal flash is going to go off. He's going to have to get a bit more health here. That should work. Oh my god, that was really
very close.
But,
he did.
Yeah, so basically he did that in a way where as soon as he hopped out of the crystal flash, the bugs would immediately come up and he can just start farming right away. And once he hits 25 supers, he's going to want to head right into the fight and get it started in order to not lose as much energy.
Yeah, these bugs can give you some pretty troll RNG. We're looking for either big health or super missiles. The main thing we're looking for is super missiles, but if they happen to give either missiles or power bombs, which are both very low % drops in this situation, what that ends up doing is just costing health in the end. So, all right. So you saw Giggles use the X Factor special beam combo to start off this fight. Had a little trouble hitting the particles there. We'll see if he can still pull through or not. That is definitely where the extra energy tanks come in handy. Gives you a little more leeway for the strategies that you need to use in this fight. Oh, I took another hit, unfortunately. Well, very solid effort on Giggles' part there. So we're going to be starting back at the same safety save that we took before.
Another thing worth mentioning about Ridley is if he can avoid it, it would be really good if Giggles could not get a health bomb. So if he could sort of finish the fight with extra energy and not be below 30 when the drops come. If he is below 30, he's only going to get health pickups. And he'll pick up a E-tank right when the fight is over in the next room. So, health isn't, a priority there. But not getting the health bomb and getting missiles and super missiles and power bombs for drops, it'll cut down on the farming a bit afterwards because he is going to have to do a crystal flash in order to get out of here.
Yeah, since he took the extra missiles and the extra power bombs, he should have enough to be able to crystal flash on his way out. But if he does get health bombed by Ridley, he'll need to spend a little bit of extra time farming to get some additional resources. Whereas without the health bomb, he wouldn't need to worry about that quite as much.
Unfortunately, the bugs were a little out of sync there, and I ended up getting hit by one, and that took him down.
Honestly, it's the Giga's fault. If I hadn't gotten hit in Slant, I would have been fine.
Yeah, a lot of the enemies down here, those in particular, Gigas, they'll do, I believe, 160 damage without any suits.
Yeah, those
and
are the big spiny hoppers.
Yeah. And a lot of the other enemies will do 200 a pop, so it's very important that you don't get hit by any. It's doable with a lot of E-tanks to take a hit, but the window has become really tight for making it work.
Making quick work of the pirates again.
He is in really good shape now. So much that he's actually going to have to wait a bit for his health to go down.
Yeah, this is the other side of the spectrum where he's actually losing time because he has to wait for his health to go down here. It's a good feeling, but it's also a bad feeling.
So again, he's timing this so that these drops will disappear as he comes out of the crystal flash, and he can immediately start farming.
A few more supers here before we head into the Ridley fight again. So of course, the bugs are just dropping a bunch of health. All right, round 2.
Fight.
Good placement on those X factors, looks like. Looks like Giggles captures dropping some frames. We'll just blame that on Ridley.
Heckin' Ridley.
Very nice fight on Giggles' part. Ridley just, he was embarrassed. He didn't want people to be able to see Giggles making a joke of him, so.
So yeah, he did not get health bombed, so luckily he now has enough missiles to Crystal Flash. He'll need to farm up supers and power bombs. Luckily, these Violas all drop power bombs pretty much 100% of the time. And so he'll have to farm some supers up also, but he'll be good.
Yep, with these last two Violas, he should have everything he needs to get out. So as long as he doesn't take a ton of damage, he should be good here. That's not to say that this is easy by any means. He has to be very careful with his movement and the way that he traverses these rooms.
Oh, he's actually going to grab the power bombs of shame over here, which have their name from the any percent category. Normally you wouldn't pick those up unless you made a mistake, but in RBO they can be pretty nice safety.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's just grabbing them so he has a little bit more leeway to get out here. He didn't need them necessarily, but it's not ever a bad idea to grab them. All right, so he'll be doing another Crystal Flash here. Taking a save. Very smart. Just a few more rooms here before we are out of Lower Norfair. Screw Attack actually makes this last room pretty trivial, whereas without it, it would actually be very, very difficult to get out here. These enemies are called Key Hunters, and like Sloters mentioned earlier, they actually do 200 damage per hit. So without Screw Attack, you'd have to do some very, very specific maneuvering to get around them, but since we have Screw Attack, we can just jump right through them.
And Giggles is back into Bubble Mountain with plenty of energy to spare. So that Hell Run section of the run is pretty much over. He's going to farm a bit in this next heated room, but for the most part, we're out of danger from heat.
Yeah, so most of the danger in the run is past now. There's definitely some still some areas where we could take a death or things could go very wrong, but Norfair is definitely the most dangerous part of the run. Coming up, we're going to be heading into Meridia, which normally when you're traversing Meridia, you'd have the gravity suit to get through all of the water rooms, but we don't have the gravity suit, so Giggles is going to have to do some very particular and very cool movement to get through these water rooms. It's referred to as suitless Meridia, so the cool parts of the run are definitely not over yet. Personally, suitless Meridia is actually my favorite part of the run. Do you have a favorite part of RBO, Sloters?
You know, I might have to agree with you on the suitless Meridia. It's just so soothing going through those sections. It's nice and slow. And doing like the grapple jumps are a lot of fun. It's a great section.
So he's going to be doing a jump out of this tube here. and you're going to notice that he. Oh, well. Commentator's curse. I'm sorry, Giggles. Normally, he would do what's called a gravity jump coming out of that tube, where when he did the jump, he would have normal physics, and then the game would transition to the suitless physics. But
So instead, Giggles is going to show off kind of a cool mechanic with supers. Supers will actually knock enemies off of walls and ceilings if you shoot one nearby. And so what he did is that as that crab was climbing up, he shot his super in order to get it off of the wall and actually froze it in midair and used it as a platform to get up to that frozen fish.
he's going to be freezing enemies in pretty specific spots using his platforms. This fish here is actually pretty interesting. The longer you're in this room, the lower it ends up. Every time it swims back and forth, it goes just a little bit lower. And so if you take a while to get up, it's actually a little bit easier to get onto that fish. So you're going to see Giggles using the grapple beam to do some really cool swings here. Grapple beam is really fun to use underwater when you don't have the gravity suit, just because of the way that the game stores your momentum and then releases it when you release the grapple beam. And then coming up in one of these next streams, you're going to see something called a grapple jump. And basically the way that works is that when you release grapple on an upward swing, if you morph and then unmorph, the game puts Samus in a sitting position, and from that sitting position, she can jump. So it will look as though she's morphing and then jumping repeatedly, even though there won't be any floor underneath her for her to jump off of.
Yeah, while it's not necessary in this room, you can actually climb up some of the snails to get to the top. It is a very fast strat to get up this room, and we'll also see it a little bit later during the Dragon fight in order to exit that room.
Very nice grapple jumps. It should be noted, you can do those even when you have gravity suit. The only requirement is that you're on an upward swing after grappling. The window for it is definitely harder if you have normal physics.
Another trick here Giggles is going to be doing called the Metroid clip. He's going to freeze this Metroid here in a very specific position, and once he jumps on top of it, he'll actually just be able to clip right through those crumble blocks and completely bypasses the need for the speed booster in this room, which is the intended way. It's speed booster and gravity, I should say.
All right, so we have Batoon here. He takes 10 supers to kill. You can only damage him when you shoot him in the head. The rest of his body is invulnerable, and his head actually has a really, really annoying hitbox, but Giggles made quick work of that fight, so good job on that.
So unfortunately, we're kind of forced to pick up this E-Tank here. Unless, you'd spark through those blocks somehow. I don't know who would do that, but if that's not an option, we're going to pick up this E-Tank and kind of go through this morph ball maze to get out of this room.
Sloters is taking a jab at me. There's a trick in this game where you can store a shine spark indefinitely, and one of the things that I do in my runs is I store it all the way from Lower Norfair up through this room, and then I use it to break through those blocks so that we don't have to go through the morph ball tunnel. But most people go through that morph ball tunnel, and Giggles did a very good job of getting through quickly there. You actually can skip that energy tank without sparking through, but it's it's very difficult suitless. That's for sure. All right, so we'll be heading through a room called Colosseum next. And one of the things about this room, it's actually very dangerous. If you fall in the sand in the wrong way at the bottom of the room, you can get stuck down there. And there are spikes that it's possible to get out and survive, but it's pretty difficult. So it's really dangerous if you fall in there. So the main thing that Giggles is going to be focusing on here is making sure that he doesn't fall all the way down into the sand as he goes through this room.
Yeah, if you turn around as you're going into the sand, the turnaround animation is considered an uninterruptible animation. And so you can use that to kind of clip through enemies and fall through breaking blocks or crumble blocks faster. You can also use it to fall to the bottom of a sand pit really fast, which in this particular instance would be pretty bad. Like Zenny said with the spikes, it's a bad situation to be in.
Had a couple scary moments there, but he managed to get through and is now taking a save. This save is actually very important for marathon or race settings because the particular Dragon strat that Giggles is going to be using can go wrong based entirely on RNG, and if that happens, there's actually nothing you can do, and you can just die. It's pretty rare that does happen, but if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen during a marathon or a race, just because Super Metroid. So you notice Giggles let those Mocktroids attach onto him and damaged down before coming in here. The reason for that is because he's going to be doing a Crystal Flash here. He's going to time it in a way so that Dragon will actually pick him up while he's in the Crystal Flash state, and what that will do is it will give him a Shine Spark. He's going to need that Shine Spark in order to get out of the room just before and just after the Dragon room. So
yeah, this fight would actually be really trivial if we didn't have to worry about getting out of the room. But since we don't have gravity suit, we kind of have to do this fight in a special way in order to get out.
All right, so what he's going to do here is he's going to activate his spark as he gets grabbed. He's going to have to do another Crystal Flash here now to get another Shine Spark. But the idea is that he's going to activate his spark as he gets grabbed by Dragon. And what that will do is it will transition his Shine Spark into what's normally called a blue suit. And what that blue suit will do is just make it a little bit easier to retain the spark on his way out of the room. It's not required, but just with the way that the flow of the fight goes, it's best to do it this way.
Yeah, so while this isn't like the Ridley fight where you're kind of pressed to finish the fight quickly and avoid damage at all costs, this fight is a bit slower, but it's just very technical on what you have to do in order to get that blue suit.
All right, so we're going to give this another try here. Another thing worth mentioning is that every time Dragon leaves the screen, there's a 50% chance whether she will do what's called a swoop or a goop. We need a goop pattern, because if she swoops, she's not going to pick us up. So that can actually be a pretty big time loss if she decides to just keep swooping over and over and over. Okay. Very nice.
There. Yeah, so you might notice he has sort of like speed echoes on him now. That's an indication that he was successful in getting that blue suit. So he's going to pick up the drops here and also pick up the space jump in the next room. And then hopefully he'll get out of this room okay. He does have ammo to do a crystal flash if he needs to. He's going to be trying to do a grapple jump off of one of these turrets, and the turrets actually do a pretty significant amount of damage, so too many failed attempts and he'll get low on energy, but like I said, he can crystal flash if it takes too many tries to get more.
Yeah, this grapple jump is it's pretty particular in the way that you have to do it, but Giggles got it first try, so great job.
Yeah. He made it look pretty
it's
easy,
kind of hard.
but
It's hard to learn. Once you know how to do it, it's not too rough, but it is very hard to learn how to do it. So, GG on that.
So at this point, especially now that he's saving, this is sort of the end of the really difficult and scary parts of this run. At least until we get to Torian. The other two bosses, Fantoon and Kraid, are going to be pretty trivial at this point. Mother Brain can not be trivial, depending on how many E-tanks you have going in there. But in general, this is kind of where you can sort of relax and all the scary parts are over for the most part. Like I mentioned earlier on, though, we are going to pick up that plasma beam, which means we won't be able to use Spacer anymore. Plasma does a lot more damage than Spacer. It's also going to give us the ability to pierce enemies, so our beams will actually go through them. And it can possibly hit a single enemy multiple times, but also a string of enemies as well. It's very convenient for us to grab Plasma Beam because we need to go to Wreck Ship next, and this Forgotten Highway, as we like to call it, is kind of a convenient path up there, especially when you're suitless.
So even though most of the dangerous parts of the run are over, another cool thing about RBO is that usually we wouldn't have the types of items that we're going to be having for these segments of the run. So for the Fantoon fight and the Kraid fight and the movement surrounding those, normally we wouldn't have Screw Attack and Space Jump and all, all these items. So even though it's not necessarily dangerous, there's still some really cool stuff to see here.
This next room Giggles is about to go in. There are some yapping maws that can potentially grab you. Okay, it doesn't get grabbed. That's a real feels bad moment when one of those grab you because it takes you into the bottom of the next room, and you have to sort of jump back around, and it's kind of a big time loss. So good job not getting grabbed there.
This section of the game, this section of rooms, people refer to as Forgotten Highway. And the reason for that is because we normally actually don't see these rooms in any categories except for this one and map completion. They're just sort of out of the way. There's no items over here. And it takes a little bit longer to go through these rooms to get where you need to go than rooms most of the time. So it's pretty cool. pretty cool seeing these rooms in this category, especially because we actually end up going into wrecked ship through the back doors, which is just another one of those happy coincidences that it even works, because Deer Force, which is the developer of the game, actually took the time to make a bunch of these doors in wrecked ship locked doors when you come in from the other side, but they do allow entry this way.
I actually saw someone on a first playthrough. I think they were using the PAL version. It must have been, but this is actually how they found wrecked ship, was taking the Forgotten Highway, which is pretty nuts. So for this Fantoon fight, Giggles is going to have the full beam combo, which kind of gives an opportunity for an easy 2-round. If he does 4 missiles on a round and then a charge shot, and then 3 missiles on the next round and another charge shot, that'll actually do enough damage to kill Fantoon. So looks like he got 4 missiles there. Gets a charge shot. Let's see if he can do it. Oh, he's going to get a slow pattern.
Yeah, so one of the things about Fantoon is he can either give a fast, a mid, or a slow pattern. A slow pattern is, I think it's 10 seconds slower than a fast pattern, roughly.
Yeah.
So that's one major source of RNG for the run that can either really help or really hurt your time. But Giggles made good work of what he was given there. Plasma Beam really, really does help with that fight.
Yeah, the other methods for 2-rounding Fantoon are a lot more difficult, require a lot of practice to really master, but that one's pretty easy to get the hang of. So now the only G4 boss left is going to be Kraid. So we're going to be going down Red Tower again. And because we have that screw attack, we're actually going to see a really cool moonfall that you don't get to see in a lot of categories. Having that screw attack is going to allow us to shred through some enemies, as well as some bombable floors. So that'll be coming up in a couple rooms.
The best moonfall in the game. Very nice.
Beautiful.
One thing worth mentioning is that with Kraid, there's a quick kill strat that you can do that will make the fight pretty trivial. But if you miss it, Kraid actually goes into a phase 2 of the fight, which isn't necessarily that much more difficult, but it does take a lot longer because you have to wait for him to stand up and crash through the ceiling. And one of Giggles' emotes is actually kind of a homage to missing the Kraid quick kill. So just saying, Giggles, I feel like you might be kind of obligated to let Kraid stand up here.
I don't know if I'm necessarily obligated to let him stand out, but I'm pretty sure I'm obligated to accept anybody who wants to post it if I fail it as karma.
Fair enough. And looks like Kraid is not going to prom tonight.
That's too bad. I really wanted to post some of those emotes.
And like I mentioned earlier on, we did not have access to the suits until beating Fantoon or Kraid. And even though we've beaten them now, we really don't have a need for the suits. At this point, they would just be just time spent, and you really don't need them to beat the game. Really, Gravity Suit would help us traverse through some of the acid coming up in the Torian rooms, and Various Suit would give us a lot more leeway on the Mother Brain fight because of the way the Rainbow Beam works on calculating your damage taken. So mostly you'll see runners skip the suits entirely.
Normally you'd see runners pick up Varia regardless of whether they had gravity or not already, just because the Rainbow Beam does 600 damage unless you have Varia suit, in which case it does 300 damage. But since we have so many energy tanks, we don't actually need it. So, like Slaughter's mentioned, it would just take extra time to grab them.
Yeah, it's strange that the Rainbow Beam only checks if you have Varia. That and the amount of damage you take from the baby Metroid grabbing onto you. Those are the only two things where like Varia would make a difference that we like want to have it for. But Gravity Suit, for the most part, pretty much does everything Varia does and more.
Going through the last set of rooms here on our way to Turian. Very nice speedball there. And this room right here is referred to as the Golden Statues Room, or G4. So we have to wait for the statues to kind of release those gems or those orbs, indicating that each of the bosses has been defeated at this point. So you have a good amount of time here to sit and kind of reflect on the run and make yourself nervous if you're on a good pace, just before the Turian leg. So as much as speedrunners generally don't like sitting around waiting for 45 seconds to a minute in any scenario, I think that the way that this room is presented actually really helps add to the tension and the atmosphere before going into the final area of the game, which is one of the things that Super Metroid is best known for, is its atmosphere. So in each of these upcoming rooms, there are either 3 or 4 Metroids in most of the rooms. One of them only has 2, but we have to defeat the Metroids before we can actually exit the room, because the door on the other side is locked until they're all defeated. So thankfully, Ice Beam makes pretty quick work of them. Looks like Giggles is doing what's referred to as a grouping strat, where he kind of gets all the Metroids into one clump, and then he can just use a single super missile to take them out. Very nice Metroid rooms.
Now Giggles will come up to the baby room, and with this health, probably doesn't want to get the baby skip, but there's a way you can actually avoid getting grabbed by the baby Metroid in this room by doing some careful jumps around and kind of dancing with it as you go over to the other side of the room.
Normally the baby will grab you and drain your health. It is still a little bit faster to get the baby skip and have to hit the refill anyway. So we'll see if Giggles gets that. But he is going to have to refill his health in one of these next rooms.
Yeah, I was about to mention too, another option he has, since all his ammo is full right now, is he can actually do a crystal flash to refill, and he'll still have plenty of ammo to get through the Mother Brain 1 phase. So he's going to go ahead and do that right now.
Very nice.
The minimum amount of ammo you typically need without having to refill is 15 missiles and 10 super missiles coming out of that baby Metroid room. So he's at 15 and 15, so he'll have a good amount of leeway for Mother Brain 1, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Doing the smart thing and saving before the last fight of the game.
Yeah, especially with the full beam combo, this fight isn't like super difficult, but not having any of the suits, a lot of her attacks do a ton of damage, and so it's not trivial by any means.
Yeah, and when the fight goes wrong, it tends to go very wrong. I actually ran this category at AGDQ earlier this year, and I died to Mother Brain in that run. One of my buddies was asking me which safety saves I was going to set up before that run, and I mentioned the Mother Brain one, and they kind of gave me this, this funny look, like, why? And I told them Mother Brain is not free, and then lo and behold, I actually died there. So Mother Brain has a few different attacks she can do. They are RNG dependent. Just she can give some different patterns based on that. But the main thing that Giggles wants to avoid is that red beam right there that just came out. If he got hit by that beam, it could actually do enough damage that he wouldn't be able to finish the fight, depending on how it hit him. So saw him damage down a little bit there intentionally. That was to do this glitch called the stand-up glitch, where normally he wouldn't be able to move right now, but just based on the amount of health that you have, the game can trigger or not trigger forcing Samus into that crouch state. So you saw him kind of floating in the air a little bit there. That was to prevent the game from locking him back into a crouch state. If you're on the ground, that can happen, and then there will be one more time that the game does a check for that, where he will need to be in the air again, and that's coming up right here. So now we're in stand-up phase, and you see that he's sitting here shooting Mother Brain with charged shots. If he gets, I think it's 39 charged shots in, that's optimal. We'll make it so that Mother Brain only needs to take one beam from the hyper beam phase. This can actually save, I think it's like 20 plus seconds if you do everything correctly.
Yeah, not only is it important to continuously get shots in on Mother Brain, but you also want all those onion rings to always hit the baby. If any of those onion rings miss, it's going to slow down how long it takes the baby to actually die, and so that'll sort of take away some of the time saved for that. But it looked like a very good stand-up from Giggle, so he definitely saved a lot of time with that. And with that, we are now in the escape sequence, so Giggles just has to run back up to his ship, and once he is facing forward towards us, that is where time is. This escape sequence is pretty standard with a lot of the other categories having high jump and speed booster. And there's one last moonfall right here. It saves a couple seconds. Gets it. And just one more spark here up the climb. And just a couple rooms away now.
We'll be saving the animals according to one of the moderators in chat.
Saving the animals. How dare you guys? Get ready
All
on
right,
time.
now. Yep.
Time.
And
GG,
good game,
Giggles.
Giggles.
Thank you. 130-30 with, what was that, 4 deaths?
It was a good run. You can be proud of that run.
I'm not unhappy. First try to get Drake on escape was really nice. I definitely want to take the opportunity to say thank you to both of you for taking the time out of your days to help with commentary on this. Thank you to Insomniac Speedruns for putting on the Insomniacs Marathon to raise money for the Able Gamers charity, and for asking me to be a part of it. I definitely appreciate the opportunity. It was good to de-rust on RBO, and it's given me a lot of time to work with Zenny and learn new things. And also thank you to Sloters for suggesting that I actually submit RBO instead of any other category. So this has been a great experience, and just thank you to everybody. Do you guys have anything before we sign off?
Just follow Giggles. He's a great guy, great runner. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to do the commentary. I hope it went well. I was really impressed with your run in a marathon setting. Just for the record, you did a really good job.
I appreciate it. Lower Norfair gave me some trouble, but not surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for letting us come and commentate. Thanks for showing off this awesome category. It was a very good showcase of what it's all about. Yeah. Thank you, Giggles.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Signing
so much.
off.
With that, I'm gonna turn it over to the mods to move on to our next run. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's going to be a coming soon screen. So thank you guys. You have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the match.